Hey everybody, my name is Michael Wanjiru and I'm a student in American Literature 1, and today we'll be looking at Transcendentalism. So what is it? The definition of Transcendentalism, according to the Webster Dictionary, is a philosophy that emphasizes knowledge and experience or unknowable character of ultimate reality, or that emphasizes the transcendent as a fundamental reality. So another definition by online-literature.com is that it is a philosophical movement which occurred mainly in the United States, but that slowly metamorphosed into literary expression. This means that the writings of the great American authors of the 19th century, and we'll take a look at that shortly. So anyway, according to the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, the movement first arose among the liberal New England members of Orthodox Calvinism because they believed in the importance and usefulness of human struggling, as opposed to the miserable Puritan idea of inescapable tendency of humans to be evil. And so they stressed the unity rather than the Trinity of God. So you can say these guys were sick and tired of old Puritanism ideas, and really biblical interpretation of things, and so they just departed from it, and that is how the movement began. So what period in history was this movement? It started early on in the 1800s, but the Transcendental Club in Cambridge, Massachusetts was established in 1836. So we can say from the late 1830s, and it lasted up to the late 1850s, just before the Civil War broke out. So what was their philosophy? They had four beliefs, or four pillars, which were truth, science, intuition, and individual. They had principles like individualism, search for truth, freedom, and self-reliance, and they lived by this, and all the followers really espoused this in their daily life and in their writings, which we have to this day. So whom did it involve? There was a lot of people, probably in hundreds or thousands, but the main ones that we do remember include Ralph Waldo Emerson, Henry David Thoreau, Margaret Fuller, and the rest of them. We will look at three of them in details. We don't have a lot of time to look at all of them, but it was an incredibly large grouping of people. So the first person we will look at is Ralph Waldo Emerson. He arguably was the face of the movement, as we have read in the sources, and he was at first a Unitarian minister, like we said. He went to Harvard School of Divinity, and he later on transitioned to this movement and brought a lot of experience from his preachings to the movement. Also, when he was young, his aunt taught him about Hinduism, and so he introduced the philosophies of Eastern religions and mysticism into the movement. And because, again, as we said, his experience as a minister and him having the opportunity to preach in a lot of churches, he would spread these ideas of transcendentalism in the churches, and he had a huge following. One of the main works of his was an address he made at Harvard School of Divinity in 1837, and is documented in an essay called The American Scholar. It emphasized or encouraged cultural independence and encouraged Americans to have pride in themselves and to find inspiration from within rather than from without. The guy to the right of your screen is a picture of Henry David Thoreau, who was another contributor to the movement, and who was a close friend of Ralph Waldo Emerson. He was also very active in the movement. We read that he was against the Mexican War, which was a war that the United States was fighting to extend slavery to Mexico, and this can be seen in his work called "The Resistance to Civil Government." He also supported the abolitionists' cause, as we see in his lecture entitled "Slavery in Massachusetts." He liaised with John Brown in a bid to end slavery, and also this can be seen in another work of his called "A Plea for Captain John Brown." So the most interesting thing with Henry David Thoreau was early on he spent 2 years, as we read in the links on the screen, as we read, he spent 2 years on Emerson's land, and he learned a lot of things during this time and penned a lot of works. So in his book Life in the Woods, he talks of, or he insists on the importance of self-reliance, economic independence, how people should learn to be a good companion of oneself, and also instead of trying to change the world, that people should concentrate on changing themselves first. He also was against the destruction by modern technologies, and encouraged people to look into nature for fulfillment. He encouraged people to see themselves as part of nature, and not, outside of nature. And also insisted on introspection and self-discovery as a way to be happy and to live a fulfilled life. One of his greatest quotes is, only that day dawns to which we are awake. There is more day to dawn. The sun is but a morning star." It is said that he inspired Martin Luther King Jr. and Gandhi, who were, who fought for, like Martin Luther King fought in the civil rights movement, and also Gandhi was fighting for independence for India. Thoreau died of tuberculosis in 1862 at the age of 44 years, which was very sad. The next person we'll look at is Margaret Fuller, who was arguably one of the main or the biggest contributors to the movement. And he served as an editor of a journal they used to do called The Dial, which was a literary and philosophical journal. And she wrote a lot of articles and reviews on art and literature. So in 1943, and I'm quoting, "The Dial published her essay, The Great Lawsuit." And he was one of the main people that fought for the rights of women from way back in the day. She also traveled widely. She would travel to Europe and report for a New York newspaper. I forget the name, but while she was in Europe, she met her husband, who was an Italian, and got a child, and they both fought in the Revolutionary War in Italy. And while they were coming back into the United States, their ship got wrecked in Fire Island, New York, and she died. So what you're looking at are the paintings of the period. So this painting shows, or is entitled "Immigrants Crossing the Prairie." It shows like the movement westward in the Americas back in the day, during this period of the Transcendentalism happened. The next painting is called "Cotton Pickers." The main economic activity in the cotton belt, which was the southern United States at this time, was cotton farming. It was the main cash crop, and those were most likely slaves who were doing the job. because slavery was going on at this time. So that gives us the context of the period. The next one shows buffalo. It's called Buffalo Chase in Winter. Again, it captures this period because this before the 19th century, there was millions of American buffaloes, or what we call bison. But at this time, they were becoming extinct because there was a lot of hunting or commercial hunting of them. And this painting captures maybe a hunting expedition, and again gives us the context of the period. So what was the legacy of Transcendentalism? We have it up to this day because we have their works. They had great literature, but also some of them went on to lead other movements, like Elizabeth Peabody, who led the kindergarten movement in the United States, what we now know as pre-K, I believe. And then she also went on to fight for Native American rights. Margaret Fuller also was a great advocate for human rights and is considered one of the early feminists. Then there was Theodore Parker, who fought slaveholders in the South and politicians who supported slavery. And in general, the movement pressed for the rights of all people, prisoners, poor people, black people. Like, it doesn't matter. They believed everyone was equal, so their belief and philosophies was inclusive of everybody. Then they also influenced pop culture all the way to today, and also back in the 60s and 70s and 80s. We know of the Beatles, we know of Bob Marley and all these people. When you listen to their music, most of their music is transcendent music, and that too was a contribution. Also, movements such as the civil rights movements and independent movements in Africa and Asia and other places were really inspired by these belief systems, including nonviolence resistance, which was something Henry Thoreau espoused. Sorry. And that's all the material I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. Thanks for listening.